Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. All right. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm struggling a little bit with my voice. So please excuse me if my voice sounds a little rough. All right. Well, life in China is getting ever more intolerable. Before I get into the economy, let me give you an overall update first. You probably know that the CCP's top leaders and their staff are now gathered in Beidaihe for their annual 2-week seaside retreat. Behind closed doors, they're locked in heated debates and secretive meetings to bargain for power ahead of the fourth plenum in October. Leaked information suggests the power struggle is spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, the country is being battled. I'll talk about this. I'll talk about the Beidaihe meeting and then the power struggles. Hopefully this weekend, if not next week. It's definitely on my list of things to talk about. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. So while the CCP leaders are enjoying their summer retreat while fighting each other for power and control, the country is being battered on multiple fronts. So in Beijing and parts of northern China, severe flooding has displaced tens of thousands of people. In the south, especially in Guangdong, people are coping with both floods and a major virus outbreak. It's called, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Is it chikungunya? Chikungunya virus outbreak. And then in Henan, China's main grain-producing province, a severe drought threatens this year's harvest. Some anticipate food shortages in the near future. And then on the social front, people across China are showing support for residents in Jiangyou, Sichuan, who stood up for a girl who was bullied and her parents and her disabled parents by flooding the live chat during the university games in Chengdu with protest messages. And then in Kunming, Yunnan, a brave young man, I'm not sure if he's young, but a brave man was spotted today holding a poster reading. Let me play it for you. Let me play this. What does his poster say? Can you see? It says Xi Jinping out. So this video is everywhere today. But his courage is admirable. I mean, it's unthinkable. This is in China. Meanwhile, the regime's propaganda apparatus is promoting an anti-Japanese movie called Nanjing Photo Studio, Nanjing Zhaoxiangguan. And then I think the English name for the movie is called Dead to Rights. However, one netizen commented sarcastically. He said, "The Japanese are not bad. When we fight them, we become heroes. The CCP is worse. When we oppose them, we become criminals." So that's the mood on the ground, and it may get worse in just a month because the CCP has announced a new policy that could further strangle China's already struggling economy. And this is severe. So let me now talk about this new social insurance mandate that's making a lot of people, business owners especially, nervous. So starting September 1, China will fully enforce its new social insurance rules. By law, both employers and employees must contribute, no exceptions. Previously, workers could opt out by signing a waiver with their employer, sometimes receiving a small cash subsidy instead. Many preferred this because social insurance contributions take a big bite out of their paycheck and they don't trust the government to still have the money when they retire. Now, with excuse me, with contributions mandatory, the policy could be the final blow to China's struggling economy. So you might say, well, I mean, in the US, we have what, FICA, right? FICA tax, which the employer pays, and then the employee also pays a part of it. But in China, it's a different matter. So let me give you a real life case for a small steamed bun eatery in Beijing. And this was based on a netizen's recorded conversation with a neighborhood eatery owner. So the owner hires 5 employees at 5,000 yuan a month each. Currently, he buys no insurance for him, social insurance for himself or any of his staff. Under the new rules, he must pay 1,950 yuan per employee, while each worker must contribute 780 yuan. That's a total of 2,730 yuan per month per employee. Now, if you do the math, that's 55% of their salary. 2,730, right? 2,730 over a salary of 5,000. So how could that be? That's high. Because the calculation isn't based on their actual wage, but based on Beijing's minimum social insurance base salary of 7,353 yuan, making the official rate about 37%, but the real percentage is like 55%. So this owner says that his employees won't pay their share because they don't earn enough. And they will quit if forced. So he'd have to cover it himself and pay the entire 2,730 yuan per person. And if you do the math, 2,730 times 5 employees, that's 3,650 yuan extra each month. And this doesn't include himself. This doesn't include the insurance he has to pay for himself. So if he includes himself, that's over 16,000 yuan a month, which is about 2,400 US dollars a month. Now, for a small eatery in Beijing, that's totally unsustainable. So he says he will have to close his business within a month if the rule takes effect. Now, $2,400 a month it's even high for a small business in the US that employs 5 people. For a small eatery in the US that hires 5 people, a sudden increase of $2,400 a month is substantial. So for this Beijing restaurant owner, he has no option but to close his business. The ripple effects will be felt on a massive scale. Once this policy kicks in, many small businesses, restaurants, hairdressers, small shops, workshops will fold. Unemployment will spike. Even those who keep their jobs will take home less pay, as most employers will simply deduct the employee's share from their paycheck. And that's a 10 to 15% pay cut. This will further depress consumer spending in an economy already struggling with weak demand. However, there's a big however. One group will benefit from this new policy, and you would never imagine who those will be. Retirees. Employers don't have to pay social insurance if they hire retirees. And this will disrupt the job markets in China. Seniors will become more attractive hires than young people. They will flip the job market upside down. But think about it. How many seniors will want to work given their lucrative pension. I mean, I'm talking about the seniors in the cities. I mean, the seniors in the countryside, they don't get anything, period. Um, so I think what will happen is you'll see a grandma or a grandpa will go for an interview and then sending his or her grandson or granddaughter to actually do the job. Don't laugh. The Chinese will do it. This will happen. And this mandate comes amid a fiscal crisis. In July, it was revealed that 13 provinces had illegally diverted tens of billions of yuan from pension funds to cover local government debt and operating expenses. And this was allegedly revealed by China's Bureau of Statistics. I think 13 may be a conservative number. I think it could be more. But basically, the funds are already out of whack. The government needs more money to fill the hole, and therefore the mandatory contributions kick in. The truth is, this isn't insurance. It's effectively another tax, a 37% tax. That's officially 37%. But it can be up to 55% in practice. And for many people in China, that's the final straw. So here's the question: will the Chinese uprise against the regime? Well, let's hear what a Chinese professor said. Oh, I don't have a picture of him. I meant to get a picture of him. Remember, there was a guy called Zai Dongshen, who was a Chinese professor, a state-affiliated economist at Renmin University, also a diehard CCP loyalist. He first made moves in the West back in 2020. I think it was around the election time in 2020, for his speech in Shanghai, bragging about the CCP's deep influence in Washington's elite circles. Now, another one of his provocative speeches has gone viral online, and this time it's about who is most likely to turn against the regime. So here's what Professor Zai said. He said, throughout history, it's never been the poorest people who overturn dynasties. The poorest are too hungry to fight back. They don't have the capacity or energy to resist. So when does a regime actually collapse? It's when those who thought they were about to enter the elite class, what you might call the quasi-elite, are suddenly pushed to the bottom. They do have the resources and motivation to resist. That's when you see social unrest. And then he went on. He said, look at Chinese history. Those who led rebellions or came close to toppling dynasties were not starving peasants. They were fallen scholars, once successful merchants, or disgraced noblemen. That group is the most capable of actually making things happen. Then the professor explained why he brought this up. He said, I don't want to see this country fall apart. So it was a rare moment. A party loyalist and establishment insider publicly acknowledging the uncomfortable truth that the Red Dynasty could collapse. And he's not wrong. History shows the elite and quasi-elite are often the most formidable force in overthrowing governments. And in China today, this group is on the brink of revolting. Many of them have already been pushed into a corner, facing existential threats. And in the past 4 months alone, a wave of high-profile suicides among some of China's most successful business leaders has sent shockwaves through this class of people. So between April and July, China saw a string of suicides by private entrepreneurs and billionaires, spanning industries from real estate to manufacturing to textiles. And these tragedies stand in stark contrast to Beijing's glowing reports of better than expected GDP growth in the first half of the year. So in just 4 months, 5 top industry leaders took their own lives. They were brought down by crushing debt, regulatory crackdowns, wrong strategic direction, hostile public scrutiny, and a complete collapse of social trust. These weren't just personal tragedies. They revealed the economy's structural weaknesses, institutional flaws, skewed resource distribution, and a deepening financial crisis. So let me give you the 5 cases because they perfectly illustrate the dire situation or the economic doom in China now. So let me go through the 5 individuals. Hold on. Sorry, where did I go? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So the first one is his name, he died on April 16th, 2025. His name is Bi Guangjun. He was the founder of a textile company in Zhejiang. So he leapt from the 28th floor of his home. He was only 56 years old. So he, starting from scratch in Shaoxing, Zhejiang, the heart of China's textile industry, Mr. B spent 33 years building his company into one of Asia's largest fabric distributors, supplying 80 million meters of fabric annually to both domestic brands and global brands, such as Armani Exchange, Max Mara, and Zara, I should say. But the US-China trade war, Western tariffs, and rising Southeast Asian competition cut orders by 40%. Payment terms stretched from 90 days to 180 days. Seeking to diversify into new energy or green energy, he was scammed out of 400 million yuan. And this failed strategy wiped out the capital he needed to operate his company. After that, the banks tightened credit, and debts from suppliers and clients came crashing in. His death has become a symbol of the textile industry's vulnerability amid global supply chain shifts and China's worsening financial environment. And then on June 2nd, the chairman of an elevator company, Xizi Elevator, his name, the chairman of the company is Liu Wenchao. He fell to his death from a factory walkway at the age 54. He was a mechanical engineer by training, and after college, he joined this elevator company and rose to the top and eventually becoming the company's chairman. And he transformed the company into China's 4th largest elevator manufacturer with annual revenue of 2.4 billion yuan. His work in smart elevator technology earned him honors from the Chinese government. He was given the title of technology little giant. All right. But here's the brutal truth. 70% of his clients were real estate developers. When the property market collapsed, orders evaporated and payments stalled. Internal shareholder disputes, aggressive bank debt collection, and his personal unlimited loan guarantees pushed him into a financial abyss. And he told a friend, he said this to a friend, he said, "I'm just a professional. I'm just an executive. Yet I'm being forced to take the fall for a dozen unfinished real estate projects." So his death revealed how the property crisis is gutting entire supply chains and turning executives into scapegoats. And next we have, and this is Mr. Zheng Zheng Yuzhou, he died on July 17th. He was the founder of Liang Home Decor. He was only 53 when he died. So since 2001, he had built his company, into a home renovation and finishing giant with over 100 stores nationwide and peak revenue of 3 billion yuan annually. And his company was known for all-inclusive renovation packages and a full-service model. And now, amid a falling real estate market, a wave of canceled home purchases, mounting complaints, and a funding squeeze collapsed the business. Payment cycles ballooned from 2 weeks to 6 months. And the bank seized the company's last 5 million yuan in reserves. And suppliers surrounded the headquarters. And this man fought to honor contracts until the very end, but debt and public criticisms overwhelmed him. The day after his death, the company announced that it was shutting down, leaving thousands of unfinished projects. And I think it was also thousands of customers who already paid for the project. Maybe not all of them, but they definitely put down a significant down payment. And then you have another man. His name is Wang Lingpeng. He was the chairman of Easy Home. He jumped from the company's headquarters, and he was only 57. He was once the richest man in Hubei province, in Wuhan. Now, just this March, he boasted that he planned to live to 130 years old. But 1 month later, he was detained by one of the district supervision commission in Wuhan. It wasn't even the municipal supervision commission. It was a district of Wuhan, the district supervision commission office. He was detained for suspected legal violations. He was released 3 months later on July 24th under mandatory residential surveillance. He killed himself just 4 days later. The reasons for his detention remains undisclosed, but it may be linked to his company's controversial 2019 backdoor listing, valued at 36 billion yuan, but it was listed through a company worth only 1.7 billion yuan. And he also cashed out over 2.5 billion in 2023. The company's debt ratio stood at 60% and was hammered by the property slump. So this guy was deeply entangled in a web of state-owned assets, local governments, and public markets. So his suicide likely reflected both financial strain and fear over what he might have revealed during detention, which could threaten a network of official business collusion. So the above 4 executives rose from they were ordinary people. They rose from the bottom and worked their way up by founding their companies. And they were all in their 50s, the prime years of chief executives, right? However, in today's China, they felt completely hopeless and ended everything. Now, the last case is a little different, not just because it's a woman, but it's also because she came from a different background. So she's Sun Ying. She was the chairwoman of a real estate company, Tianlang Holding Group in Xi'an. And she also jumped and was only 64 years old. Her last public appearance was in January in a magazine interview. Then she disappeared, skipping even major company events. Now, unlike the previous four men, she came from power. Her father, Sun Da-ren, was vice governor of Shanxi province. Her husband was the deputy party secretary of the Provincial Development and Reform Commission, and also chairman of um, uh, a petroleum group. It's called Yanchang Petroleum Group, a major state-owned enterprise. Her brother is also a high-ranking official in the province. And so she founded her real estate company in 2001, transforming it from a regional developer into a national heavyweight that once ran 10 projects in Xi'an simultaneously. Now, we don't know her political affiliation, but in 2021, her husband was sentenced to 11 years in prison for various violations of discipline and legal issues. And then in August 2022, in the following year, a local businesswoman accused her of running a mafia-like criminal enterprise. Allegations included forging company seals, signing contracts under false names, seizing property management fee rights by force, and extortion and blackmail. But she was shielded by a network of powerful officials, including her father, husband, and possibly her brother. So, and she ended everything in June. So these 5 stories tell a grim truth. The people that Professor Zai Dongshen warned about, the elite and the quasi-elite, are not only losing faith or losing hope, they're losing their lives. The professor's speech was meant as a warning to preserve the regime, but the 5 suicides in just 4 months suggest the party may already be facing the very scenario he described. When the quasi-elite, because if you really think about the 5 individuals, the first 4 are quasi-elite. The last one, the daughter of the former deputy governor, she's considered elite, because only when you have political clout, you are part of the elite group. When you only have money, you're quasi-elite. So these quasi-elite and elite people, they're being pushed down, or they have been pushed down and stripped of options. So why this matters politically? Now, people dying are not powerless peasants or disgruntled workers. They are the very class that the professor warned about, right? They're educated, connected, they're resourceful, they built businesses, created jobs, paid taxes. I'm not so sure about the last woman. She might not have paid any tax or taxes. But anyways, I'm sure the other, the first couple of gentlemen who, they probably paid some tax. Anyways, so these are the individuals deeply embedded in China's commercial and political networks. And their desperation signals more than economic trouble. It's the erosion of the social contract between the state and those who once believed they had a stake in the system. So the death of these business leaders sent a dire warning to people in their class. Now, if this class loses all faith, they have the networks, the skills, and the motivation to resist in ways that can destabilize the regime, just like the professor described. For now, they are falling from buildings, but history shows that when enough of them feel cornered, they can bring down dynasties. So I do not know the man holding the poster in Yunnan was. Maybe, I mean, we don't know his story. He might be one of those. You never know. I mean, people have stories. So, Yeah, so this is not just an economic crisis, it's also a political crisis for Beijing. So now I want to talk about I still want to go back to the five cases. I want to talk about the specific conditions that contributed to their demise, and that will help us understand China's economic doom, shall we say, or the economic challenges facing the business community now. And these problems are unique in China. The first is credit squeeze, starving the private sector. So officially, Beijing claims it is supporting the real economy. In practice, banks have tightened lending to private firms while continuing to back state-owned enterprises or SOEs. Private entrepreneurs now face the same cycle. A business hit by market downturns, banks withdrawing credit, and debts cascading until the capital chain snaps. But if you think about it, the SOEs are the least efficient businesses in China. The private companies are much better run, and the better managed, and they're more efficient. But the banks are not really supporting the private sector. For example, the textile executive, Mr. B, lost 400 million yuan in a fraud. But instead of providing relief, banks cut his credit entirely, right? I mean, in the West, you would still give the man a chance because he is a successful businessman and he has a good business. But in China, it's the other way. Once people saw that you were scammed that much money, everyone wants to kind of run away from you. That's somehow the mentality in China. And then the other man, Mr. Liang, the home decor guy, the bank he had 5 million yuan left in his account. I mean, he was still trying to honor the contracts, but the bank seized the assets, and so he lost everything. So these are very unique situations in China. And the second is industrial collapse, real estate and export meltdown. The property sector's implosion has rippled through the economy, gutting industries like elevators, home renovation, furniture, appliances, building materials. So of course, Mr. Liu's elevator company and Mr. Zhen's home decor empire both fell victim to delayed payments and canceled orders as real estate developers faltered. At the same time, export-driven industries like textile face their own crisis. Tariffs, geopolitical tensions, competition from Southeast Asia, they're all contributing factors. So that's another. I mean, he lost 40% of orders, and that's an existential blow for a business built on volume. And the third unique risk or condition is regulatory uncertainty, right? It's the sword over every executive's or every entrepreneur's head. China's regulatory environment is totally wild and unpredictable, right? It's harsh and it's selectively enforced. So crackdowns come with a little warning, and the government can do anything to you. They can freeze your bank accounts, and they could start anti-corruption investigations. There are a lot of private business owners who were called to these meetings, and the government basically threatened you, we could launch a full-scale investigation, or you give us 2 million yuan or whatever. They will give you an amount that they previously calculated based on the size of your business. So this is happening on a large scale. Even people I know, ran into that situation. So that's a unique risk in China. And then you have the death of trust, because there's just Many industries run on prepayment models or supply chain financing. They effectively use customer deposits or supplier credit as working capital. So when confidence and trust falters, this model collapses, right, or implodes. And the last thing is also uniquely Chinese. There's no way out. There's a bankruptcy black hole. Unlike other parts of the world, bankruptcy is a way to restructure and restart. In China, it's a life sentence. Um, Once you're labeled a dishonest person subject to enforcement, an entrepreneur face frozen accounts, travel bans, and even restrictions on their children's education. So in this system, many people see, ending everything as the only way to reset debts and protect their families, um, because they believing that debts die with the debtor. So um, yeah, I think, I mean, these 5 cases of death would not happen in other parts of the world. I do not think. I mean, not. I mean, individually they may happen, but not collectively within 4 months. Um, and I mean, they are. I mean, they are incredibly successful in their way, and they're only in their 50s, and somehow they just didn't believe. They're completely hopeless. So I don't know how else to tell you about China's economy, because the statistics and numbers are getting more and more meaningless. But I think perhaps these tragic stories may give us a realistic insight into what's happening in China. All right, I want to mention my new video this week in the Looking Glass channel. It's the continuation from last week's video, and I think it's something you might be very interested in. It's how how Chinese emperors manage hundreds, if not thousands, of women in the palace. So yeah, it's released. So Chris, if you can provide the link to people, I'd appreciate that. So yeah, check it out. It's quite interesting. All right, let me excuse me. Let me see what comments you have. Okay. All right. Let me see. Oh, I see a super sticker. That's in, I think that's Korean won, right? It's like 20,000. 20,000 Korean won is like $20, isn't it? Yeah. If I think the exchange rate is 1,000 to a dollar. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I love the zeros. Okay. All right. Mike Stewart, friendly reminder about garlic production data. Oh, yes, yes. All right. I remembered your question. To be honest with you, I'm a little under the weather, as you can tell this week. I asked Chris, I said, we need to get back to the viewer on the question. I'll do that this weekend. But thank you for reminding me. I haven't forgot. I just haven't got the time to look into to find the answer for you. Thank you, though. Thank you for the support. Charles Womack. Well, thank you, Charles. All right. Comments, questions? I'll probably have to cut this short because I don't want to cough while I try to take a look at your questions. All right, I'll just pick a random question. Okay. Okay, here's a question forwarded by Chris from Mary Gann. Mary Gann. No, Mary G. Ann, I think. Have you heard anything about railroad trains being shut down? PLA military showing up in the streets, schools shutting down, and no explanations regarding why. Are you referring to the shutdowns in Beijing? Yes, I've heard the schools are being shutting down. Um, in the city of Beijing, there are implementing a lot of restrictions. Like people who are out of town are required to return to Beijing. I think by the end of August, the third week of August, like all the students, college students or even high school students, any students that were out of town during the summer need to return before I think the end of the third week in August, because they're gonna severely restrict the inbound traffic towards the end of August. This is in preparation for the military parade on September the 3rd. And also they're severely restricting transportation via trains into Beijing. And military showing up in the streets, that has been going on for a while. People have been spotting military trucks and personnel in the street for the past month or so, or even two. Yeah, it's all, I mean, supposedly it's for the military parade, but in essence, it could be um, a protective measure during the power struggles before the party's fourth plenum. Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. Bless you. Well, this is from my Korean friend again. Well, thank you. I cannot read your name. I don't know how to say it. U7V. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Here's a question from Chris. Oh, Chris. No, that's not from Chris. Lay. Oh, there's someone who's gone crazy. Yeah, some people who's gone crazy. There's somebody who lost his or her mind. Anyways, but that's okay. There are always people like that. Oh, here's a question. Oh yeah, Chris forwarded the link. Lay does have great hair. Okay. Uh, thank you. Thank you. D Glass 2008. I heard bad things about the Chinese medical industrial complex. How much are hospitals abusing the faith of the Chinese people in the name of profits? Chinese hospitals are notorious because they are um, they're highly commercialized. You know, see, the CCP, when they embraced economic reforms and opening up, they don't have a good understanding of how market economy is run in the West. So they went, on one hand, they didn't really open up their market, but on the other hand, they commercialized industries and sectors that should not be commercialized, like education, like medical services, hospitals. So hospitals have to be profitable on their own. So how do they do that? Well, by selling drugs, by selling all kinds of exams. So hospitals, once doctors and medical professionals are obsessed with making money, they become a slaughterhouse. So so you're saying how much are hospitals abusing the faith of Chinese people? It's notorious. I have a personal friend who is an executive working for an American architectural firm, and she was sent to China on a business trip for an extended stay. I think she stayed in China for like 3 months because she's Chinese American like myself. While there, she did a physical exam, and they told her she had breast cancer. And they told her that it was a severe form of breast cancer, that she'd better do surgery right away. Um, but she was not scheduled to come back to the US yet. She told me she like thought, I mean, she thought so hard. She debated between doing the surgery in Beijing right away or wait until she came back to the US. And she eventually went with her gut feeling, which was to get a second opinion once she returns to the US. And when she saw her oncologist here, she has no cancer. There's no cancer. She told me, she said, if she had believed her Chinese doctor, she would have lost her breast, one of her breasts. So, I mean, that's just how horrible it was. I mean, she didn't go to she went to one of the best hospitals in Beijing. So that just tells you how this, I mean, this is not the worst. I mean, some hospitals are involved in organized crimes against innocent people, in the crime of organ harvesting. And that's even more atrocious. Mike Stewart, please no rush late. Get better, please. Well, thank you, Mike. All right, thank you. Oh, here's Dave M 792. I got nothing, just a thank you for the talk. Get well soon. Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. Michael NC, what government entity in China plans and administer the economy? Well, supposedly it falls under the state council. But under Xi Jinping, he likes to micromanage everything. So he established these committees, a handful of over a dozen committees. One of them supervises the state council over economic matters. But lately these committees are not functioning anymore. So in China, things are not always very straightforward because they have two sets of apparatus. You have the government, and you have the party government, right? So for example, foreign ministry, that's a government ministry under the state council. But then under the party, they also have a foreign affairs committee. And then the boss, the person who heads up the party's foreign affairs committee, has a higher ranking than the head of the foreign ministry. So they have a dual government setup. So you have one set for the government, one set for the party. In theory, the party track, they have dual tracks. The party track has superiority over the government track, but I just don't know how they function. So that's why it's the least efficient government ever in history, because there's no accountability. So when you ask me which government entity in China plans and administer the economy, I think it's Xi Jinping. It's in his head. That whatever his vision is, that's the direction of China. Yeah. Okay. Ford Global, there are rumors that Xi Jinping might have gained some power back recently. Is that true? It is true. The power struggles are, there's a deadlock amongst the various factions. I want to talk about it maybe this weekend, if I feel okay. So Xi Jinping does not want to back down. I mean, Zhang Youxia's situation is not looking good because all the other party elders, like I said before, I mean, they have the freedom of not to be involved because they retired, right? But Zhang Youxia doesn't. He is the one who dethroned Xi Jinping, or he is the one who took over the military control from Xi Jinping. So it's between him and Xi Jinping. But Xi Jinping refuses to step down. So he's bargaining with the party elders. Unfortunately, amongst the party elders, the different camps, they have different opinions. I think the biggest issue is Hu Jintao, because this guy is a little weak. He wants to play safe. He does not want to rock the boat. He just wants to have Xi Jinping go through a smooth transition. Continue Deng Xiaoping's policy of economic reforms without major political reforms. And he wants to save the parties from falling apart. And therefore, when that's his goal, he does not want Xi Jinping to lose face entirely. So he is on Xi Jinping's side to ensure his smooth transition out. However, the other party elders like Wen Jiabao, Li Ruihuan, Wang Yang, these are the people who want a fundamental change in China, a political reform. So they're stuck. And there are other people with other ulterior motives who are making everything more complicated. So they're stuck. But the time is not on the reformist side. Time is not on Zhang Youxia's side. The more they drag on, the more dangerous the situation is for Zhang Youxia and the military. So things are not looking good. And that's why I have not done anything. I want to wait and see what's really happening in Beidaihe. The rumors are out of control right now because every faction is spreading rumors in their favor. And so there are all kinds of flavors out there, and they say very contradictory things. That's why I think I want to wait a little bit until the dust has settled a little to really figure out what is more likely the situation. But you're right. He does have, because of the delay, because of the lack of decision or the lack of direction for the next step, Xi Jinping has regained some power. But that's only on the administrative side. He still does not control the PLA. He still does not control the military. But he does get some of his political power back. So that's my answer to the question. But I want to spend more time talk about that, hopefully this Saturday. But thank you. Thank you for the super sticker and the great question. All right, here's here's a question from D Glass. Oh, I already answered that. Somebody said, Norbert Claus, private enterprises and CCP cannot coexist. What do you think? I agree. They private enterprises and CCP fundamentally will clash, because when private enterprises grow big, they become too powerful and they threaten CCP's political power. And that's why former Premier Wen Jiabao said, without political reforms, there's no economic reforms, there's no market economy. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, here's a J Way 3441. Hi, Lei. So many things seem to be happening lately. I never know what's AI and what's real. I wonder often if the CCP gets fooled by all the deep fakes. They're not fooled. They're using deep fake to fool us. Well, that's why I'm here. I think I have a good sense to know what is fake and what is real, because you have to apply logic, CCP logic, to dissect these crazy claims or leaks. So, all right, Nori Hero, Is it possible for CCP to become actually financially insolvent? It is possible. It is already financially insolvent. If it doesn't control the banks, I mean, the Chinese banks are already bankrupt because if you look at Chinese banks, I mean, 75% of its revenue come from interest. Um, but if you look at these banks, the interest rate is already lower, or the asset, the ratio, the bad asset ratio is what, 1.5%? It's already higher than the interest rate. So when that happens, and that's again, 1.5 is only the published um, bad asset ratio. I mean, the real ratio could be higher. So the banks are not making any money. The banks are losing money when they have such a high percentage of bad assets on their balance sheet. So how can they make money, right? They can't when the interest rate is so low for the banks. So they're already insolvent. But because they're state owned, the government can use administrative measures to keep them in place. Okay, all right. I think I reached the bottom. All right, I'll quickly scroll down. Wow, there are a lot of comments. Someone said, I haven't been sick for a year. Yeah, I haven't been sick for for a long time. I don't know how I could get a cold in summer. It's unthinkable. I don't even know where this came from. Um, my doctor told me take vitamin C 3 times a day because it stays in your system all day. All right. Well, I think that's a good advice. All right. Thank you. That's all for tonight. I will see you in a few days, hopefully. Okay, bye. Bye bye.